Let me make sure I got this right. Conservatives want to lecture liberals about tone and respectability and decency in the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The same conservatives who downplayed tragedy after tragedy when the victims were black, brown, queer, or simply Democrats. Let's get into it. When George Floyd was murdered, Republicans did not mourn. Marjorie Taylor Greene called Democrats worshipers of a convicted felon. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't care about that man's family. After George Floyd's death, Texas GOP officials circulated memes calling it a hoax. People like Charlie Kirk literally blamed this man for his own death, even though we watched him get choked out. Blamed it on fentanyl. You had people like Candace Owens making entire documentaries ridiculing this man dying. And y'all want to talk about decency? A Scottsdale, Arizona councilman literally mocked Eric Garner's dying words at an anti-mask rally, wearing a mask, talking about "I can't breathe." Republicans literally mocked this man's dying words, and y'all want to talk about decency? Y'all doing all this tone policing now, but where was y'all when Fox News aired a chart aligning stock market gains with the killings of black men, specifically George Floyd and Michael Brown? New Jersey corrections officers were filmed reenacting Floyd's murder as counter-protest theater. What are we talking about? A Republican state senator in South Dakota posted "All lives splatter," joking about running over protesters weeks after a white supremacist killed Heather Heyer with a car in Charlottesville. Imagine telling liberals to be respectful after Kirk when your own party treated black men's last breaths and an anti-racist protester's death as punchlines. We can keep going. When Paul Pelosi was nearly beaten to death in his home, Donald Trump Jr. joked about a Halloween costume of underwear and a hammer. Kerry Lake laughed on stage about Nancy Pelosi's home security. Conservatives treated an attempted assassination of the speaker's husband like late night comedy material. And y'all whining about how folks are responding to Charlie Kirk? When the FBI foiled a kidnapping plot against Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Trump had a whole rally talking about lock her up just days after. And then he mocked Whitmer for blaming him for radicalizing the people that were trying to kidnap her. Conservatives didn't call for unity. They doubled down. When Puerto Ricans died by the thousands after Hurricane Maria, Donald Trump was shooting paper towels and then claimed that the Puerto Rican death toll was made up by Democrats to make him look bad. We can keep it going. After 49 mostly LGBTQ people were slaughtered at Pulse nightclub, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick tweeted, "A man reaps what he sows." Minnesota Democratic House Speaker Hortman and her husband was assassinated, and Senator John Hoffman and his wife were shot. Conservatives wasn't talking about no damn unity. Senator Mike Lee posted conspiracy bait about the suspect being a Marxist and slapped a wink and a nod tagline on it, tying it to Democratic leaders. We not taking no tone policing lectures from the same crowd that sneered at George Floyd's last breath, that laughed about Paul Pelosi's fractured skull, told Puerto Ricans their deaths didn't count, and could barely muster any empathy when Minnesota Democrats were being assassinated. If you didn't respect tragedy then, you don't get to demand it now. Period.
You heard what the man said. He didn't stutter. Welcome to ViperTV Live. How's everybody doing out there in Radio Land? Good to see everybody. Yeah, where was the lie? That's what I want to know. All this pearl clutching because apparently it's the left that are the most violent. But we're the ones sitting here trying to figure out how to keep our survival instinct from crashing the fuck out because half the country was calling for the day of the rope when they didn't even know who the shooter was. And it turned out it was one of theirs. Of course. Why? Because that's just the way shit is. The same kid is the same demographic, is the same political ideology, only a few states over in Colorado that shot up a school. extreme anti-Semitism, extreme racism, nihilism, and fascism at the same time. Don't ask me how that works together. It's not my place to try to explain this nonsense. In the same way that the free speech crowd is creating lists of people. I can't make it up if I tried. And the really tricky part is that once the right wing found out that it's one of theirs, every excuse came out. The bullets were trans. He was trans. No, the roommate's trans. Look, you can clip this if you want, but if the dude was having a down low relationship with a trans person, they're definitely a Republican. So, with that being said, gang, we're going to have to get dumb. What do I mean by we're going to have to get dumb? Well, we're going to actually go into the ideology of this assassin. Sorry. Of this murderer. But why do I say we're going to have to get dumb? Because anybody that's watching this show naturally has no idea about the universe of the Groypers. Y'all are smart people who avoid the dark spaces. It's my job to learn about all this and bring it through a nice filter and present it to you so that we can go to Mordor but still come back to the Shire. But that time for me to have that filter is gone when the word Groyper reached astronomical search levels over the weekend. And there's grandparents asking, what's a Groyper? And you're like, oh, God. Well, hopefully if you get those questions and you get questions about the ideology of the shooter, this will help you.
So the Charlie Kirk assassin is now officially in custody, so I want to break down for you guys everything that we know so far in terms of who this guy is, what his family background is, and what potential motive he could have had in this assassination, because right now we have a ton of competing claims. A lot of the information is confusing and conflicting. Some people are trying to say that this guy is a left-wing anti-fascist. Other people are trying to say that he is a right-wing sort of neo-Nazi online Groyper type. So we're going to run through everything. I'll let you guys, make up your own minds. So just on the baseline here, his name is Tyler Robinson from Utah. He's 22 years old. You can see the mugshot here down below that was recently released. Obviously, it looks like he is just a young white male. So, there were a lot of people initially who were trying to claim that this was a trans shooter. Doesn't look to be the case. We also have information on his parents' background. So Tyler Robinson himself was registered politically as a nonpartisan. His parents were both registered as Republicans. I've seen other reports that he apparently donated to Donald Trump, although I haven't seen this fully confirmed,
surprise,
so I don't
his
want to present
parents
that
are
as if it's
Republicans,
factually,
and he was raised in gun
factually
culture.
confirmed information to you guys, but we also have more here. His father was a retired sheriff, apparently working for a couple of decades in the sheriff's office. He grew up in a Mormon household, apparently, from a somewhat wealthy, at least middle class sort of family. He's obviously white.
No. Dude grew up in a 6-room house with parents that were still together. Okay? He had every single advantage. They went to church all the time. This is exactly the archetype that MAGA says that America needs to be. They need to be a good, white, rich, God-loving family. Right? That's what they're supposed to be. Well, do you see what this environment created? Because more than likely, every time that their son said some racist bullshit that he heard off of either 4 or 8chan, they were just like, oh, you're so funny. Trust me, I grew up around it. I know what this said behind closed doors. So that's why I've had no problem being able to ring the bells when it came to what was going to be going on in Project 2025 and all the ideology that came with Christian nationalism, because I know about all of it.
He was raised around guns and shooting, and also wore this Trump costume for Halloween one year. Again, a lot of this information, keep in mind, is ambiguous, to say the least. Like, okay, he wore a Trump costume. Is this a pro-Trump costume? Is this an anti-Trump costume? Is this a neutral, sort of just like a goofy Trump costume? Who the fuck knows, right? So let's try not to make any sort of firm conclusions as we go through all of this. Now, we also have this interesting point here that from what we know, this guy was an incredible student, like straight A kind of student, and yet he went to Utah State University on, I believe...
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. He's also a straight A student. So literally everything that society tells you that you should be in order to, be a successful person, every single thing.
A scholarship and then dropped out after one semester. This person here makes the point that maybe this could indicate some sort of mental health problems or something else. Again, this is not confirmed. We don't know that to be the case, but it is interesting that, he was at this university with impeccable grades on a scholarship and then dropped out after one semester. Now, we get to this. Okay, so this is what is sort of the crux of what everybody is talking about on the potential motive or the potential political leanings of Tyler Robinson. So here we have the Utah governor, Spencer Cox, talking about what was written on the bullet casings of both the bullets that were fired and unfired that they apparently recovered from the gun that they found. So let's go ahead and listen to this, and then we'll break it down one by one.
Breeze on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital O-W-O, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read...
Now, I'm sure this gentleman is going to go into it, but I don't think that the person giving this press conference is stupid enough or steeped enough in internet culture to understand that it was a reference to furries. Yeah.
"Hey, fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point. Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols."
This is how you know that this gentleman is not a gamer, because he couldn't instantly tell that that is the move for total annihilation with Helldivers 2. And the funny thing is that I'm surprised they didn't just start like whipping out the Konami code right up there. It's like, it says on the bullet, up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, select, start. We're going to need to bring in our leading cryptologists on this.
A second unfired casing read, "Oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao." And a third unfired
Old
casing
Italian
read,
anti-fascist
"If you read
song
this, you are
they
gay,
use ironically.
LMAO."
And of course a homophobic slur.
Okay, so let's just break this down one by one here. That was a lot, right? So you have the Awu sort of first casing that looks to be the one that reportedly is the one that ended up killing Charlie Kirk. This was the one that was fired, the one that said, "Notices, bulges, Awu, what's this?" So we're going to, again, break this down one by one and sort of try to take it at least somewhat seriously. But this is centered on sort of a meme making fun of online furry culture. Okay, so stay with me here. This is from Know Your Meme. They say, "What is the notices bulge? Ooh, what's this meme phrase inscribed on the casing of the bullet fired at Charlie Kirk?" Explained. So this is what we got. The meme is meant to make fun of furry role-playing, including the language and typing quirks stereotypically attributed to role players and furries. Notably, the meme used the symbol ooh which is an emoticon commonly used by furries to portray a cutesy, surprised face, similar again to uwu. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this is supposed to be pronounced different than this. I don't know, okay? Stay with me here. It is also used outside the furry community on the internet, often ironically, which is kind of what it seems like was the situation here. I don't think, although
It's a lot of Venn diagram when it comes to furry culture and to anime culture, because this is stuff that people that, you know, touch grass don't understand. Basically, I'm sure you've heard the ew sound. My voice doesn't get extremely high, so that's about as good as you're going to get from me. But people that live in these online spaces, this just becomes their subculture, in the same way that, you know, if you're a punk rocker, you know, you hang out and you talk about obscure bands, and, you know, just every subculture has its own thing. If you're into rockabilly, you comb your hair up and you like hot rods. This is its own subculture. It just happens to be extremely online only.
I don't know that Tyler Robinson himself participated in like online furry role-playing. I think he was using this ironically to make fun of this, you know, his version of whatever online furry role-playing is, as you can see from this kind of a meme here, right? So I think it's pretty clear what he was indicating with this, not politically, but what sort of meme he was getting at there. Keep in mind, this guy was, if we know anything, terminally online. Okay, and we don't know what sort of online niche subcultures that he may have been a part of, but it's very clear that this guy was obsessively online just based on what was written on these bullet casings. Now, we move on to the second one here. Now, this is one of the ones that is the, you know, so-called the anti-fascist one that the right is latching on to say, look, this guy's definitely a leftist, he's an anti-fascist, you know, he wrote, "Hey fascist cat."
And the thing is that it's all done in bad faith. They know what the deal is, but part of their playbook is to gaslight. When you point out something that is just blatantly obvious, the idea is to gaslight you and make you think that you're crazy and you're overreacting. This is how they can keep getting away with their kind of shit, with the whole like wink and a nudge and a smile, until finally it's now getting to the point where Project 2025 is our day-to-day reality. So how many people told you were overreacting? Now there's tanks on the streets.
And then the arrows, right? So what is this actually talking about? Well, it's a reference to the game Helldivers. So as you can see here, if we click on this, apparently the input in order to call in this Eagle 500 kg bomb is up arrow, right arrow, and then down arrow, down arrow, down arrow. And apparently this is one of the, you know, catchphrases or whatever that is used as a part of the Helldivers game. It's something like, "Hey fascist, catch," and then obviously followed by those arrows. So again, this is another thing where it's like,
another thing is also people don't understand is Helldivers is supposed to be like, is pretty much fascists versus fascists. So for them to say that, it's all in just irony. In the Bella Ciao is, you know, is an anti-fascist song. It's them co-opting it in an ironic way. Like I said, everybody is way too smart to understand this at face value.
is this him indicating that he is actually an anti-fascist and that's why he killed Charlie Kirk? Or is this just him being a terminally online person making a reference to a video game? I don't know, but it's important to understand sort of the context in which we're getting this kind of a reference, right? So that was the second one. The third one, the Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao. Here from Mike from PA, he says, I've seen some millennials saying that Bella Ciao being used on the casing means that the 22-year-old shooter was a leftist, obviously because Bella Ciao is like an old anti-fascist Italian song, right? And he points out here that there are plenty of instances of online groypers and far-right people also using this kind of a song He says, here is a remix of Bella Ciao on the Groyper War America First playlist. He says Groyper War refers to the targeting of Charlie Kirk. So again, you know, you have this.
So does that mean there's Groyper Wars 1, Groyper Wars 2. Does this mean they've officially kicked off Groyper Wars 3 and Charlie Kirk's widow is now at the head of Turning Points USA? Because that was a really weird eulogy, by the way, or a memorial speech. I'm not exactly sure what you call it. But last I checked, there was one shooter. And how many times did you say the word they? I don't think that y'all understand. It's like, bro, just put the Reichstag in the bag. No one's buying it, okay?
The song Bella Ciao, it's an anti-fascist song. Again, does that mean that this guy was confirming that he was actually anti-fascist, or does this mean, you know, some sort of a, an indication of some niche online subculture that he was a part of? I don't know. I'm not making any firm conclusions here. Again, a lot of this is conflicting and confusing. So this is what was on the bullet casings. Of course, the final one was just sort of like a...
Yeah, Black Dragon, I agree. It pretty much is a gang war because I mean, this is Pac and Biggie, but for dorks, okay? But my question is, so are the Groypers going to get designated as a terrorist gang? Are they going to get sent to El Salvador? Because it was their gang. I don't know if they have tattoos, but it was their gang that murdered another person from another gang. That's gang on gang warfare, right? I mean, turnabout's fair play.
Troll of, if you're reading this, you're gay. I don't really think there's anything further to read into that other than what it was at surface level. But this is what was on the bullet casings, and this is what I think is going to be, again, the crux of what many people are arguing about in terms of trying to figure out what this guy's political ideological framework was and what the motive was for killing Charlie Kirk. Now, I look at all of this, and I'm like, you could interpret this in any way that you wanted, right? You could interpret this as, okay, straightforward, this guy was just a left-wing, anti-fascist who hated Charlie Kirk because he thought Charlie was a fascist, and so he killed him, and he wrote this on the bullet casings to, make that sort of an indication. Now, I do have further questions from that point because it's still confusing to me as to why he would have left the gun in the place that he did, presumably, I guess, knowing that it had a good chance of being found, and why you would write this kind of stuff on the bullet casings if you were simultaneously trying to escape the police and you didn't want to be found. You get what I'm saying? Like, either you want to be found and you want your weapon to be found and for this kind of engraving to send a message, or you don't want to be found. So again, that part of it is still confusing to me as part of this. But again, you could read into it in the straightforward way, this guy is an anti-fascist, killed Charlie over that, or you could read into it in this way, which is like, maybe he's just an online Groyper type, and he wrote the anti-furry or poking fun at furries, ooh-woo kind of thing as a troll, and he included the Bella Ciao thing as sort of a reference to something like this, and, the Helldivers thing. None of this is exclusively left-wing or right-wing, right, is what I'm trying to get at. There's really no way to determine, just based on this information alone, that he was a left-winger or a right-winger from what I can garner. Okay, now, again, you guys make up your own minds. Let me know what you think in the comments, I guess. And I'm sure we'll get more and more information as this continues to play out. We also had this interesting statement here posted by Asika Groyper on Twitter, quoting something that Nick Fuentes, obviously head of the Groypers, the online neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, who just, I believe last night, said, quote, "To all of my followers, if you take up arms, I disavow you, I disown you in the strongest possible terms. That is not what we're about." So again, this could mean nothing, and granted, I don't know the surrounding context of him saying this, but it does kind of seem like a little bit of a weird thing to say, unless you maybe got the gut feeling that the person who killed Charlie Kirk may have been...
It's so funny because this is the first time that they've ever tried to, back off of violence. These are the same people who will consistently harass, the rainbow community until they finally unalive themselves, and then will post photos of, like, the bridge that they did it on and stuff like that. So I find it extremely ironic that this is now when they want to be like, we need to disavow violence. What's happening is Nick Fuentes is scared as fuck because the trial is going to lead to discovery. Normally, these shooters would take themselves out after a crime, but this one's alive. That means there's going to be a trial. Now, apparently he's being uncooperative with the police, which is amazing, because if he was a lefty, they'd have blackjacked the shit out of him until, like, he gave up, and said that, he was literally the ghost of Karl Marx reborn. But we're going to go ahead and let that part slide. Doesn't matter, though, because all the people that know him are cooperating. Now, this is the problem, is do we have an FBI that we can trust? Because Todd Blanche was talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, and she lied her fucking ass off the whole time. 18,000 emails have come up showing that she committed perjury with Todd Blanche. So anything that they find, are we going to trust this FBI when all of a sudden all the evidence we see that points to this gentleman's proclivities and interests, all of a sudden he's this raging leftist because Kash Patel said so? By the way, Kash Patel, you're not going to Valhalla. I just want to point that out. By the way, that was also a fun little dog whistle to say, we got the watch, brother. I'll see you in Valhalla. You know what that means? They're saying they're at war. I'm so over the little snarky, like, wink wink, nudge nudge, we're gonna say this thing and you don't know what we're talking about, and if you try to bring it up, we're gonna gaslight you. No. The entire playbook has completely been laid bare.
And one of your own. I don't know. Again, I'm trying not to read too much into it, but it's kind of an odd thing to say at a moment like this. Now, we continue. Okay, so we have more information here on the rifle that they found, again, in this sort of like wooded area, and also on communications that he reportedly had with, I guess, a roommate via Discord is what they're claiming. And I guess maybe he wanted his roommate to participate in this with him or to help him by going and picking up the rifle for him at a quote-unquote drop point. But let's just go ahead and listen to a little bit of this.
Member Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact name Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique.
That's interesting. Black Dragon says, I want to know if you can buy an engraver for cheap, because they're not cheap. And where did he get one? And knew how to sign the bullets. Those bullets are not homemade. Well, there's probably a real good chance that there's a whole bunch of online shit in the dark spaces that talk about making sure that you get to do the whole cut and paste of, previous shooters, because the Fashkin original. And more than likely, he's able to afford one and all that because he comes from a family that has a 6-room house.
Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits.
Okay, so again, a little bit more information there. I think it'll be useful if we do.
Like, it's just shit like this just really annoys me, because people that had every advantage ended up still doing this, whereas there's people like a lot of friends that I have, myself as well, that have dealt with the trials and tribulations of life. And I mean, don't get me wrong, every home life has its own ins and outs. Every family has its own skeletons. But when this person has the exact list of qualifications that conservatives say that it takes to be successful, and then goes and murks one of their own, it just annoys the shit out of me, because I know so many survivors of so much shit, and they never went and shot an iconic right-wing podcaster. And the thing that I use the word iconic because they're trying to martyr him Horst Wessel style. But the thing is when they're showing, that the NFL is having to do, take moments of silence for Charlie Kirk, I noticed they're not playing his words on the screen. Like, why don't they play his greatest hits? Like, we should be, any other civil rights leader, something happens to them, there's memorials, there's vigils, and their words are everywhere. Why are we not just playing Charlie Kirk's words like on the big Jumbotron on the NFL? Why aren't we doing that, gang?
Eventually get access to the Discord messages in their entirety to see, what other history does he have on Discord with maybe his roommate or with other people, or, again, further indications on potential social media profiles and what kind of internet subgroups and subcultures that, he was running in and that he was a part of. But, apparently, again, he was relying on his roommate there to potentially go and try to pick up the rifle, which could explain why, he left it where he did and didn't just take it with him. Now, other things that I want to mention as I finish off this video, we also, just the nature of the FBI and the police response to all of this was so crazy. I mean, we had this clip here of Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, coming out and saying, this is what happens when you let good cops be cops. He also had a weird statement towards the end of his part of it.
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. First off, he turned himself in, okay? Second off, he turned himself in while you were eating dinner. Kash Patel is about to go in front of the Senate. Did you know that? That's going to be a great bit of entertainment.
This press conference where he said that he will eventually meet Charlie in Valhalla, which is a strange thing to say for a Hindu guy to say to a Christian guy, that a Hindu and a Christian are going to meet up in a pagan sort of version of heaven. Is just a bizarre thing to say. But anyways, he said that. And he also said, again, this is what happens when you let good cops be cops. And it's like, you guys didn't do shit. As pointed out here by Manny, like, you fumbled around for a couple of days, pushing out misleading and oftentimes contradictory information between agencies, and then the shooter's family turned him in. Like, you guys literally did not do anything. In my video that I was making yesterday at around like 4 or 5 p.m., you guys were talking about putting out a $100,000 reward for any information on who this guy was. You had no idea who this was, where he was, or anything else. So to come out and to like pat yourself on the back here, as many of them were doing as part of this press conference,
I really hope
like,
this all comes up in Congress.
You guys did not do shit. If it had not been for this guy's father, or for potentially other family members, or maybe a roommate eventually turning him in, he may have never been found. Like, we have no idea what would have happened. But you certainly did not do your job well. And this is not an example of what happens when you let good cops be cops. You guys didn't do shit. So I thought that was kind of amazing there. Now, we also have some interesting, let's call it backtracking, that's been happening from some conservatives who, before we knew anything about the identity of the shooter, were immediately saying this is a trans person, that this is, an Islamic person, this is a radical lefty, this is war, we need to seek revenge, etc. We need to crack down on all of these left-wing organizations. And
they made sure to get every talking point they could out there, especially Nancy fucking Mace. She used that opportunity to go ahead and say the T-slur as much as she possibly could, because it gets her money from fucking mouth breathers. And hey, guess what? It turned out to be one of your own. So what happened? Oh, Sheedy immediately says, you know, we need to pray for him. This is a person that's lost their way and they need to come back to Jesus. First off, I'm so fucking tired of you using Jesus as an excuse for everything. I saw a video earlier where there's just this fucking tattooed up fucking truck nuts, bro. Like, ain't no way that you can live a good life without Jesus in it. I take myself away from my Bible for 2-3 days, a demon comes out. You know that? It's a demon that comes out. It's like, motherfucker, if you need religion to keep you from being a monster, that's not my problem. That's something you got to sort with you and your God. Possibly, better yet, you and your therapist.
Commentators, etc. And a perfect example of that is Nancy Mace here, who started out by saying it's time to bring back the death penalty. Right, she said that yesterday or 2 days ago, right after the shooting happened. We also had her using a trans slur here, saying enough is enough. Nancy Mace comments on reports of Charlie Kirk's killer allegedly being, again, pro T-word. I'm not even going to say that word. But that's what she said, right? Saying that this is, you know, obviously a pro-trans person, so we have to blame them, and this is part of like a deep sickness within the country. And then once we find out,
yeah, exactly, right here,
that the shooter is actually.
We know Charlie Kirk would want us to pray for such an evil and lost individual like Tyler Robinson to find Jesus Christ, and we will try to do the same. Motherfucker, I'm telling you, when that press conference came out and they came behind that podium, you could see the look of what happens when they have to use restraint, when they're like, God damn it, it's one of ours. Fuck. Instead, they have to, you know, like, they have to, well, you know, after extensive manhunt, we've let cops be cops. If it was a lefty, they'd be pounding on that fucking podium. They'd have flipped it over. So I don't want to hear your shit.
A straight white male, she says this: we know Charlie would want us to pray for such an evil and lost individual like Tyler Robinson to find Jesus Christ. We will try to do the same. And I've seen this repeated across many conservative profiles here, and this is nothing new, guys. I mean, every single time something like this happens, not that we've seen an assassination exactly like this, but anytime that there is some sort of a tragedy or there's some sort of a mass shooting or an attack of any kind, before we know who the identity of the person is, or once we even do know, if it's a minority, if it's a Muslim, if it's, you know, somebody who is...
You know, and this shit reminds me of how America has always been quick to jump the gun. Like a great example is like Emmett Till, or Black Wall Street. You know, just any reason that, you know, if a group of idiot racists can get fired up about something, no amount of logic or facts is going to change their mind. They're off to form a lynch mob. It's just this time what happens is they can go online and do that, and then there's bot farms everywhere that just amplify it all over. But it's the same fucking thing. Always rush to take action, and then if it turned out you were wrong, double down and blame it on something else because you have to remain completely impeccable. It's more important for Christian nationalists to look like good people than to actually be good people.
Is part of the LGBTQ community or anything of the sort, they will immediately blame it on the entirety of that community and on anybody who supports that community and say that it is part of a broader issue with those kinds of people, right? And anytime that it's just a straight white guy, it suddenly turns into, well, we need to pray for this this harmed soul who must have been going through something so deeply. We need to pray for him, right? It's just it's so transparent and brazen. The tone shift that happened here, going from we need to bring back the death penalty because this guy is pro-trans, or this person is pro-trans, or maybe even trans themselves, to saying we should pray for them. We should pray for them. Amazing stuff. Now, final two things here. We have Trump's response. So this was an interesting clip. Let me check the audio on this because I don't even know if this is...
His response is bullshit. He just immediately said, hey... he literally said one line. He's like, oh, I'm doing okay. But look at the ballroom. Look at the ballroom. They said, everybody's been asking for it for 150 years. No one's been asking for a fucking ballroom. You saw it in Putin's palace. You saw all the gaudy gold. And you said, I need to have my own. Are we going to rename it to the fucking Jeffrey Epstein ballroom? That's my question. But it was proven, well proven now, that this shooter is 100% not just a right-winger, but a groiper. Now, I know that there's the whole, there might be a trans relationship. Gang, I hate to say it, but Nick Fuentes, like, goes on dates with cat boys. Okay, so don't even try to act like, you know, you can't be some insane right winger and still not be into, you know, trans and furry romantic relationships. You have to understand that the most repressed people are conservatives. There's a fucking reason that Grindr crashes during the RNC. I think last time that happened, it crashed twice. Yeah? But no. We have to blame it on everything. We got to blame it on trans. We got to blame it on black people before we even know anything about the identity of the shooter. We have to ensure that, we have to make sure that we just can't take any responsibility. We have to remain impeccable. You don't understand. We're good people. We're good people. We go on Sundays and we worship Jesus. And then we say the N-word on our way to Cracker Barrel so that we can harass a waitress and not tip her. Jesus Christ. And MAGA's still trying to blame other people for the Charlie Kirk incident. Tell us about it, Lewis.
Getting insane. They are still looking for somebody else to blame this on. Donald Trump keeps saying he's coming for these radical left lunatics. Donald Trump, I'm sorry, he was not a Democrat. He was not trans. He was not black. He was not Latino. He was not Muslim. He was not Jewish. He was not an immigrant. He was raised by a Republican family. And yet bomb threats are being made to HBCU. They're accusing the shooter of being in a relationship with the trans person and saying that she was the one that convinced him to do this when that is not true at all. They're going off of unverified.
Oh, and don't forget also there's now saying, okay, not trans, not immigrant, let's see here, not black, not brown, college, there we go. We can say that it was college that radicalized them, even though it was Utah Dixie College, where he's surrounded by people just like him, and it's a trade school, and he also took online classes. Like I said, you can break your brain trying to twist it into the pretzels that it takes in order to deny reality when it's right in front of your eyes. Sorry, George Orwell called it.
Report, they're saying he was Republican. What happened? He was radicalized by the left when he went to college. They're trying to blame college. They're saying it's video games now. Not one person has called for restrictions on guns. People are bringing up George Floyd. It's been 4 days since Charlie Kirk's assassination. No riots, no cities burned. Conservatives mourn, the left destroys. This is a reflection of what Charlie stood for: love over hate, faith over fear. The future of America looks bright if these values become popular again. The values you're talking about is the person that shot Charlie Kirk. What are you saying? Y'all were just declaring war online. You were literally threatening mass violence and mass shootouts, saying you're ready to clean up America. Somebody responded to him. A conservative set fire to Governor Shapiro's home just a few months ago. Melissa Hortman was murdered by a conservative 12 weeks ago. Cut the clickbait and take some responsibility. I mean, even Elon Musk is still looking for this imaginary enemy. I am now 100% confident that Charlie's assassination was carried out by a radical left-wing transgender terror cell. What is that Even mean? Let's get the evidence. Seems likely. By the way, retweeted the fake narrative about him having this transgender girlfriend that radicalized him. First it was school, then it was the girlfriend, then it's video games. I mean, if that's the vision of America.
Yeah, I realized I was muted, but like I said, I was kind of looking for a clip, so I didn't want it kicking out through the speaker. Unfortunately, I did mute myself. I didn't really say anything important other than I'm looking for this one particular clip. So
Patrick bet David wants to live in and grow up in, then he has a lot of soul searching to do. In my last video, I said I think Trump and his constituents are gearing up for Trump to be a dictator. This morning, Laura Loomer posts, I was thinking about this over the last few nights while I couldn't sleep. I have to say, I do want President Trump to be a dictator. The left thinks he is, and I want the right to be as devoted to locking up and silencing our violent political enemies as they pretend we are. What happens to free speech? The more hate speech you spew, the more your public perception dies. That's how it goes. That's life. But I guess that consequence isn't good enough because now we need to lock up Democrat political leaders who have all condemned the violence and said this is not okay. Nobody should be celebrating. Lock them up. Not only that, but Trump quadrupled down today saying the problem is on the left. I'm telling you, they're gearing up for something very bad. Watch this video.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
Do you plan on investigating?
We'll see. We'll be announcing. They're already under investigation. You know, they're already under major investigation. A lot of the people that you would traditionally say are on the left.
They're already under investigation?
Already under investigation.
He's already investigating his political opposition. Any political adversaries Trump has is now being investigated. Don't forget, just yesterday, Stephen Miller posted a video saying, we will find you and arrest you and take away your rights. We'll take away your money and lock you up. Implying he's going to do that over free speech, by the way. There is no way the president just said, the problem in America is actually the Americans. Really? It's the Americans? Anybody that disapproves of Donald Trump's hateful rhetoric is a problem. Did you just declare political investigations into 160 million people? Because that's half of America. As a matter of fact, I'm still confused on who the left is. Who does he consider the left? Say it with me, Trump. Anyone that doesn't support Nazi ideology is who you consider the left. I mean, for goodness sake, Elon Musk went to Germany and told them to not be ashamed of their history. He saluted on stage, and then MAGA started recording.
That's exactly right. Anybody that is not a bloody Nazi is considered woke or the left or... I mean, I hate to say this, but they consider the word anti-fascist to be left leaning. How do you tell on yourself like that every single time? Unless, like, you just genuinely embrace fascism like that one dude in the fucking Jubilee video.
Themselves doing it and lost their jobs. They want to identify with billionaires so bad, but they're just not. These people do not live the same lives you live. The values you hold are different from the values they hold, at least the reasonings for your values. You know why Trump all of a sudden had this hardcore campaign for the Christian vote? I'm going to blow your mind right now. And I've been known this. 62% of Americans are Christian. That is 150 million people. Trump does not care that you're Christian. He has said many times in the past in many interviews that he does not identify as Christian. At least he doesn't believe in actual Christian beliefs. You just make up so much of America, it made you an easy target. There was already white Christian nationalists. He made you a very, very easy target because you believe in faith. All he does is have to talk about God 3 times and you're all in, which is disappointing because as a Christian, I would think you would be able to spot an antichrist when you see one. I mean, just pay attention to this Freudian slip.
It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Not only did he agree to having it fixed and rigged in the future, telling you don't have to vote.
Do you remember, I believe it was during that same speech that he said that Elon knows those machines so well. If it wasn't for the election being rigged, I wouldn't have won. Do you remember that? Do you remember he literally used those exact words? And yeah. just like anything else, just slips right by, just goes right under the radar. Because if you try to bring it up, they'll say you're overreacting, and we all know that the road to fascism is led with people saying that you're overreacting.
Vote again? He accidentally went on stage and said, I'm not Christian. Want more insight on this? Here is Trump not being able to quote a single Bible verse.
I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are, and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy?
I just don't understand when people can't smell a con man. Is it because they're just so used to these televangelists who lie to them, like Peter Popoff and Kenneth Coleman? Like they just lie, and the rubes buy it, and they give them money. Is there just people in this world that can't spot a con man? Or is it that they have to play along and play stupid because they want him to further their agenda?
Guy or New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
You hear that? He's an equal testament guy. Because nothing's better for plausible deniability than trying to remain as neutral as you can because you know nothing about the subject you are speaking on. This is a guy that likes to brag, and I've never heard a Christian say, I don't want to say my favorite Bible verse. They could tell you that lickety split. It's in their bio probably.
Well, another funny thing is he also is the person who knows everything about everything. Nobody knows blank better than me. Nobody's ever done something blank like no one's ever seen before, you know, and only I can fix it. But when it comes to his Bible knowledge, then all of a sudden he's a little wishy-washy. All right.
It might be tattooed on them. Here's Trump saying he's never asked God for forgiveness.
So we've got people lined up for questions. I just got one more, because you used the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. Shockingly, because people are so shocked when they find this out, I'm Protestant, I'm Presbyterian, and I go to church and I love God and I love my church. And Norman Vincent Peale, the great Norman Vincent Peale was my pastor. The Power of Positive Thinking. Everybody's heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He was so great. He would give a sermon you never wanted to leave. Sometimes we have sermons and every once in a while we think about leaving a little early, right, even though we're Christian. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Frank, would give a sermon. I'm telling you, I still remember his sermons. It was unbelievable. And what he would do is he'd bring real life situations, modern day situations, into the sermon. And you could listen to him all day long. When you left the church, you were disappointed that it was over. He was the greatest guy. And then, you know, he passed away, but he was a great... He wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is a great book.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right.
That was the filibuster. See, the thing was he couldn't call him fake news. And that really disappoints me because that had been normally his first reaction, because that's what Roy Cohn would say to do, is go ahead and call it fake news because you don't agree with it. Now, remember earlier I was talking about them taking the mask off? Well, I found the clip I was talking about. We're going to continue with this, but then I'm going to show you exactly what I was talking about by the whole they want to enact the day of the rope.
I don't bring God into that picture.
Name one Christian that has never asked God for forgiveness. How do you even become a Christian without asking God for forgiveness? He can't even admit he's wrong to God. My grandma is a very, very strong Christian. She asks God for forgiveness every single night, every morning, every afternoon, multiple times a day. She was praying all the time. This is somebody that wrote a Bible, by the way, and sold it for like $90. Made in China. I don't get it. We all agreed for years that billionaires were harmful to society for the most part. And a billionaire comes along and treats you exactly like the billionaires you condemn. He hires friends and family, not qualified people, sells you Bibles, meme coins. Some say they wanted a businessman as president. Why would that ever be a good idea when businesses' jobs are to maximize profits? You will learn that in any basic economics or international business class.
Oh, well, see, the thing is, they thought that they were going to get rich, and they were going to get rich off of the fact that they were getting rid of the people that they didn't like. And they probably don't want to say it out loud, but they were like, that means housing prices are going to go down, and we might get their property. Like, look at what happened in Germany when they got rid of Jewish people. All of a sudden, Germans had all kinds of extra luxuries. Why? Because they just fucking stole it.
Speaking of business, he's bankrupted 6 of them, and he's bankrupting America too. Not only of money, but of morals, values, and integrity. I also want to give a shout out to these women claiming their country back from racists and fascists.
But yeah, what he just said. Now, what I was talking about earlier, unfortunately I was muted, but I found what I was looking for. Now there's a clip.
All right.
That I found right here, which if you needed any, I suppose, more proof as to what the genuine plan is hold on a second, here we go. Let's just watch just this little bit right here real quick.
Moment, right? And it should tell you it is that the very collective of people who have chosen to be the lowest of low people in society when it comes to how they treat people, all of a sudden want somebody like me to have an overperformative element of empathy for somebody who didn't have for anybody else, and then
now, what is he talking about by showing that video clip? Well, let me go ahead and scrub through. And we'll find out what the red-headed man was saying. Now, where did that go? It's the joy of doing a live show, gang. Yeah, I had this one particular bit ready to go, but it doesn't seem to have really gone.
in time. And the craziest part about all of it is that the very...
Okay, you can go ahead and do this yourself. Guy claiming to be Christian is asking his cult leader Trump permission to go door to door and murder leftist people. Now, you can go ahead and play that clip for yourself. Find it on Twitter. This is what it looks like right here. It's that gentleman right there in the red hat. But he literally says, President Trump, please let us do your bidding. Let us go door to door and rid this country of this leftist scum. So they aren't being ambiguous about this shit. But yet we're consistently told that it's the left that's the party of violence.
What community looks like. Tell me what community looks like. This is what community looks like. Tell me what community looks like. This is what community looks like.
Pink signs were a great addition. I just don't get why the narrative keeps moving. Why does there always need to be a narrative with MAGA? Why can't we just make the country better for everybody? Why can't we come together and stop having to hate blame somebody all the time? Here was Donald Trump's son after what happened to Charlie Kirk saying they have awoken the sleeping enemy. Who is they? Yourselves?
They were being taught revisionist history in the classrooms, and honestly, it all
exactly
changed.
What he just said. Who is they?
So
there was one shooter, and they want to pin this on the entire left wing of the political spectrum.
Eric, thank you.
They always do that stupid smirk after they say something dumb, but they're so proud of themselves every time.
That sleeping enemy.
Eric, thank you.
Now here's Stephen Cox, the governor of Utah, accusing Tyler Robinson, the shooter, of being in a relationship with a trans girlfriend.
Well, some outlets are reporting that the suspect lived with a transgender partner. Is that accurate? And are investigators looking at this part of his life as a possible motivation?
Yes, definitely. And yes, I can confirm that. I know that has been reported, and that the FBI has confirmed that as well, that the roommate was a romantic partner, a male transitioning to female. I can say that that he has been very cooperative. This partner has been incredibly cooperative, had no idea that this was happening, and is working with investigators right now.
Yet again, nobody else to shift the blame to. I said in my past few videos, they always look for a different hate topic. If it doesn't stick, it's the next one. Doesn't stick, next one. Did I get a big enough reaction? We stay on this till we find the next big thing. I couldn't imagine living my life like that. Why do you need an enemy in your own country? If you want an enemy that bad, please go join a recreational sport. Games have plenty of imaginary enemies to.
I just know that it's not the 12 richest white dudes in the world that are running everything that is what I'm like, you know. It's not them that are getting all the attention. It's not them that are getting the scrutiny for making everybody's life more expensive because prices are higher than they've ever been. What happened to low prices on day one? But no. We got to blame minorities for our failure because, you know, even though we're born in the country with the most advantages, and, you know, typically it's white dudes, who also means that they were born with the fucking genetic lottery. How do you, like, still blame other people for your mediocrity?
To fulfill that addiction, that need to conquer some opposing force that's coming for you. You don't have to be afraid all the time. And if you are afraid, the call is coming from inside the house. Trump said out of his mouth that Charlie Kirk was a martyr. How are you still pushing an initiative to benefit yourself off of this event? Everything needs to benefit him somehow. Let's watch the video.
This is transcending not only the youth generation, but also the older generations. This is a hit on our country. It's a hit on our movement. It's a hit on, you know, Christianity. It's a hit on religion. It's a hit on freedom.
There's a subculture within the Fuentes community where they hate themselves so much that they couldn't be their authentic selves, so they use trans people as a scapegoat.
Oh yeah, I mean, just not within the youth vote, but really transcending.
OG Nazis hated homosexuals, but yet they were still banging each other like crazy because women who have nothing to do with them.
Erica on there, she was so unbelievably articulate, so unbelievably strong. This could have been the greatest mistake these people have ever made.
Who is these people? Once again, he was right. He was MAGA. He was raised by Republicans. It was a straight white male. So who are we fighting? Yourselves? I don't get it.
Who are these people? Groypers, obviously. I don't know about y'all, but this MAGA on MAGA violence is out of hand. Does this mean that we're going to be sending the National Guard into Utah? I just have MAGA on MAGA fatigue. The fatigue is real.
I'm still not understanding who are we even mad at specifically. Nobody was surprised at the identity of the individual that committed that act except for y'all. And you're still mad at who? Who woke what up? And who are you coming for? This level of stupidity doesn't feel real. But I get it. Pushing a narrative makes you money. It keeps them distracted. No one's talking about the Epstein files. I understand it on that level. But how do you live with yourself? How do you live with yourself knowing you live a life like this? Poisoning the minds of millions of people daily. How do you even enjoy any type of benefit that can come from that? I couldn't imagine. You're keeping them angry. They can't focus on their bills. They can't focus on the fact that their Gen Z children can't afford houses and probably will never own a house until like the age of 40, 45, unless they get roommates. Or they came from a rich family. They got very, very fortunate. You distracted from the fact that there's more unemployed people than jobs available in America. Even though you deported all the immigrants who were supposedly taking all the jobs. But there's less jobs now, and you deported a lot of them. Who's the enemy? No one's talking about BLM, George Floyd, except y'all. Black people minding their own business, moving on with life. Why are you so angry? How can you sit here and push this Christian narrative while you come on TV and lie to everybody on purpose to keep them hateful and angry? There's people getting evicted right now as I speak, still angry at some imagined enemy you told them to be mad at. They're raising their kids to be like this. Your father made you billions of dollars. You don't have to do this. We are only a year into this presidential term, and I have never seen America so hateful. The level of inauthenticity is off the charts. Everyone's a liar. One incredibly rich group of people is telling half of America these imaginary enemies are coming to kill you. All of them. Lastly, there is no enemy in America. There is a liar, and his name is Donald Trump. Just a group of very wealthy people who want you to focus less on how much more money they have than you. Focus more on blaming your circumstances on somebody else that has nothing to do with it. People are being emotionally manipulated by the news, social media sites, and their own president. However, truth will always prevail, and what's done in the dark will come to light. They can lie all they want, but we're always going to be here to call it out. Because not bringing justice to corrupt organizations, knowing you could have done something, is an injustice in and of itself. And we can have our communities back. We already have a community. And in our community, we want the Epstein files, Donald Trump. Release the Epstein files. Republicans once again blocked the Senate vote on September 10th. This happened to be the same day the Charlie Kirk incident happened. We want those Epstein files. We're not going to let up. The distractions will not work. They're ineffective. We want justice. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Hope you have a great day. Please.
Yeah, advice from Lewis. I love that dude. But where's the lie? Everything that he said, and especially at the end, release the Epstein files. If you have nothing to worry about, I mean, you campaigned on them. You know what I mean? Like, that was your stuff. All of a sudden, why is it that you don't want to release them? I guess the world will never know. You know what I mean? It's a gigantic mystery that why you wouldn't want them released. Oh, God. It's so hard to even lie to yourself. You try to do it the way that they do it, you'll make yourself crazy. Maybe one day Caroline Leavitt will have her break down Britney's shave my head moment because she can't lie anymore. You never know. Thanks for joining me today for ViperTV Live. It's been great getting to hang out with everybody, getting to talk all kinds of mess, and bring a little bit of light onto this, for lack of a better word, this turning point that we've hit, because I want to know. Put suggestions in the comments. How do you come back from knowing half of the country wanted to watch you swing when they had no evidence? I don't know. Something to think about. Make sure you give a like, give a subscribe, and, you know, we're going to get through this, because there's going to be a trial. No matter how many narratives are spun, there's going to be a trial, and there will be evidence, and there'll be a jury. But that's not ours to worry about, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure we're finished talking about this topic. And until then, later, skaters. Go to skipfransjr.net for podcasts.
Fresh record player that, you know, I could just spin records all the time.
Run into the bathroom and I'm covered in blood. Like I had put my tooth through my bottom lip.
For music. For gaming and pro-liberty game rants. That's skipfransjr.net.